Hey, everybody. This is Sam Bauer and the Wherever You Go podcast. I am the moderator and host, and I'm super excited today because my friend and fellow mompreneur, Brittany Fahnstock, did I say it wrong? Fahnstock. I still said it wrong. I just asked her.
Her name.
Fahnstock, right?
Yes.
Is with me today, and she's going to share a little bit about her journey and her mission and how she's incorporating the ways that God has pressed her into her business, because she is kind of one of those people that you look at and think, oh my gosh, she's doing everything. And I know that pressure of like feeling that way because people have said that to me, like, oh, you're super mom. And it's like, no, I'm really, like, if you see the real life part of it, like, I'm really not. I'm doing it. But, you know, it's not always pretty. But Brittany is a stay-at-home mom, and you homeschool, right?
I do.
Yeah,
yes.
She homeschools her kids, and she owns her own cookie business, Britt's Mama Made Treats, and she makes beautiful cookies, and so she is doing it. And I love when I meet other women who have managed to figure out how to be totally family focused while running a business and having a career, because I think there are so many women out there that would love to do that and aren't sure how, or are too afraid to make a leap, and then they find themselves choosing between their family and their career.
Yeah.
And so I'm super excited for you to share your story today, and then to incorporate Christ into it as well, because that's the whole.
Yeah.
It's a whole. It's not. I don't even want to say it's a piece of it, because it's kind of like the core of how you kind of make it all work, and it's just really neat. So I'm super excited. Sorry, I'm talking too much already. But I'm really excited to hear your story. So do you just want to kind of introduce yourself and kind of tell your journey so far, and kind of share, some of the things that we talked about?
For sure. So I'm Britt Fahnstock. I own Mama Made Treats, and Sam is my insurance agent. She's great. But I met Sam in passing because our kids went to preschool together for a few years. And so I've seen Sam and Rob in passing several times. But
and our kids just also went to art school together across the street here in Saxonburg. And I didn't even realize it because I think your mom was taking them.
Yeah, a couple times she was taking them.
Yeah, so I recognized the kids, but didn't put it together until later.
Right, yeah, because I think I was at the end of my pregnancy with my third. And so she was helping me while I was in bed.
Yeah, thank God for moms.
My third baby, right before I gave birth. But yeah, so I'm Britt Fahnstock. I'm so excited to be here. I was so blessed and honored for you to ask me.
Oh my gosh, I feel the same way that you're here.
I was like, well, she likes me. But
the same way.
Just, I guess a little bit about my journey is I have 3 kiddos, and that's the reason my business is named Mama Made Treats, is because being a mom is something that I feel extraordinarily blessed to be called to. When my husband and I were first married, we really struggled with having kids. So kids are and family is a really big, important part of my life. And it was my dream to be a mom. That was the only thing that I ever wanted to be. I wasn't sure about anything else, but I knew that I wanted to be a mom.
That's awesome.
And thankfully, God blessed us with that through a little heartache, but a lot of heartache. But but we have been extraordinarily blessed. And we moved to Saxonburg about 5 years ago now.
Okay. Oh my gosh, that's about the same time. We've been here for almost 6.
Oh yeah.
So we actually, that is funny because we would have started preschool right after that.
Yeah.
So that's.
Because I think our son started at the same time.
Yeah.
Right at the same time.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's because when your son started, was it the old preschool before the church took it over? Or did he start with the church?
I think he might have started it with the church.
Okay, so that's wild. That's crazy.
Too funny. Which my kids love your kids. I can remember him talking about them being like, Will is such a good friend. I like him. And I was like, oh, how sweet. I was like, who's Will? You gotta point these people out to me, babe.
I'm the same way.
But we moved to Saxonburg about 5 years ago, and I kind of tried to jumpstart my cookie business initially after we had a big move, and it was a really big transition. One that I personally, being totally honest, because I'm that person, did not handle very, very well.
That's fair.
God called us away from a church that we loved, a place that we felt comfortable, a place that we were having really good established relationships and being really involved in our church from, and opened up a fantastic opportunity for my husband, but to a place where I was totally uncomfortable and completely unsure of what I should do and where I should go from here, and had zero relationships.
Got it.
And so I had 2 little kids at that time, my son and my daughter, and I was looking for another way to restart my business that I had from when we moved. And so I kind of tried that, and I kind of half did it because I was just like, I don't know what else to do. So
yeah,
I half did it, and then it just kind of fizzled out because honestly, I didn't work it.
Got it.
And I wasn't ready to, and I tried to jump into this area where God hadn't prepared my heart to be in.
Got it.
And so after that, we started serving really heavily in church and started making some new relationships, and just absolutely love the area because we actually just moved here because we found a house here, not because we knew a lot about this area. And now we're like, we can never leave. We can never leave. We love it so much.
Yeah, it's neat that a lot of people want to move here, so like they do it. So it's kind of cool that you just fell into it. Yeah, that's a great, like, I think probably in hindsight of like how God works, right?
Oh yeah,
like he's like, I'm going to put you in this place. You're not ready yet, but you will be.
Right, so. And I mean, it was definitely God knowing better than I did. It's funny how He does that, right?
Right. I know.
But the amount of just community and family is such a important part of my life. It's the biggest part of my life after Jesus, that just to put us in this place that is so completely family oriented, and that is very beneficial for my family to be in this place that has such a great community. But we did all that, and we moved here by accident, and then and then God last year around, oh my goodness, like right on my birthday, because I remember being in on my birthday in July, He was like, you have a lot of people pushing you and asking you about cookies. And I had a friend who was like, hey, you should do cookies. Here's the shop owner. You should do cookies. And I was like, okay. And then all these ladies that I was in this like charcuterie workshop with were like, oh, that sounds great. You do cookies? And I was like, no, I don't do cookies. I mean, I did, maybe I do cookies.
That's funny.
And that just opened up this pathway for God to be like, you've got to jump in, because I had been thinking about it for months, and my answer was just like, no, I can't do this. I'm not ready for this. I don't have time for this.
Yes.
I'm a mom that homeschools 2 kiddos, and we were like right at last year. So pandemic was over, but then things were still so uncertain, and we were trying to figure out what to do with school and if that was still the right choice for us and what God was leading us to. And my parents actually had been living with us for a year because they had moved up here. So we were like, hindsight coming off of all these really big things.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, so now's the time to add another big thing.
Right.
I don't think so.
Right. Like, I don't think so, God.
Yeah.
You got the wrong person.
So I just kept saying no. And God is so gracious to put people in my life that just tell me like it is, because that's what I need.
Those people. Yes.
And it's funny because people tell me that I'm usually that person for them. So of course he has to have people that's like that for me. And so I had that person, and she's like, this is something you need to do. I know we've been talking about this. I know you've been praying about it. what would happen if you tried it? Like,
Right.
why would this be an issue? Why would this be a problem? Is your husband on board with this? Like, do you have all the support behind it? And I pretty much could not say no to any of
Right.
those questions,
Yeah.
and was like, yeah, so okay, God's orchestrating things. I got it.
Yeah.
Like, slowly catching up here.
Isn't it funny when that light bulb finally goes off and you're like, oh my gosh, like it was all right here.
I know.
And yeah, I've been there many times, so I totally understand that.
Yeah. So I talked with my husband, and he's like, yeah, let's go for it. And so I started posting, and like, it was really slow, and I was a little disappointed, I'll be honest, because when you start something new,
Right.
and especially when you're already unsure of it, but you are just like, God, you're going to take care of this, you kind of want it to explode.
Right.
But at the same time, God is putting my faith to the test of like, you need to keep trusting me. You need to keep trusting me no matter how slow or how fast the pace is. And
Yep.
let's see where this goes. So a couple months in, like, I started getting a lot of orders, and then I started like, some shop owners had me in their shop, and then I started getting requests, and now it's March 2022, and I'm like, okay, this is getting big. Like,
Yeah.
this is becoming a thing. Like, people know who I am. My daughter actually asked me the other day, she's like, so are you famous now or something?
That's
like,
funny.
No, Mommy's not famous.
You're Saxonburg famous. So like it's kind of a funny thing. Like in my company, we'll say like, oh, you're Goosehead famous, because like the top franchise owners, like everybody in the company knows who they are. So you're Saxonburg famous for sure. Like
funny.
that's and it's fun for your kids to be able to see that and see the
Yeah.
hard work and the heart you're putting in your business, because they're just going to appreciate everything going
Right.
forward. And they're also seeing like, hey, my mom could start her own business, so I can too someday.
Yeah.
Or, so when did you start? Because
So I officially started in, my birthday's July 20th. So
Okay.
that's my like
Of
official
20
start of 2021.
okay, so this is like, just to point this out, this is a very fast trajectory for a business to take off.
I know.
So like you had said, like in the beginning you were
It was
disappointed because it
yeah.
wasn't like going so fast. In hindsight, it's not even been a year.
Oh, no.
And it generally can take businesses like 3 to 5 years to really like get going. So I would say it's just funny how like our time
Right.
and
Yeah.
God's time are sometimes like, so like that's fast.
It is,
But when
yeah.
you're going through it, sure doesn't feel like it.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's like, oh my gosh, like nobody's ordering, or I'm not getting leads, or whatever that is, and then all of a sudden it
Oh,
just
yeah.
takes the right person or whatever. So that's
It did.
amazing. Congratulations
Oh, thanks.
on that.
I definitely attribute, so a lot of the things with my business that happened was when I started it, and my husband, we try to be really intentional in everything that we do. So intentional with our faith, intentional with how we spend our time, intentional with the things that we commit to. It's really important to us. And I know that intentionality goes hand in hand with boundaries. And so one of the big things that we talked about when we were starting all this is like, we have to constantly evaluate what we're doing and how much time I'm putting into this and how this is affecting me, and me being able to do, like my first job or my day job, like quotation marks,
Yeah.
of being a mom and homeschooling my kiddos and taking care of our home and all the things that encompass that. I didn't want that to fall off to the side. And so we talked about, like, on a Christ level, what does this look like? Is this something that God wants me to do? And why, what else could be hand in hand with that? And after praying about it and talking with my husband, I was like, I have been feeling called to be more a part of the community. And I don't know if this is the way that God's going to do it, but this is what I've got.
Yes.
This is what I've got right now. I mean, I have things that I do in our church to help serve in certain places, but I wanted to be more a part of like our local immediate community. And and through all this, like, God definitely, you said like I'm Saxonburg famous. That's what God did.
Yes.
I was like, all these new relationships with a bunch of like women-owned businesses and local businesses, and some in Freeport and Sarver and stuff too, and in Butler. And I'm like, this is so neat. I didn't know that by simply having a small business, God was going to give me relationships with people who don't know him.
Yeah.
And that God was going to give me an opportunity to represent him just by being me and by having a small business.
Yes.
And so that kind of really blindsided me
yes.
at one point, because I was like, oh, this is impactful. This is not just me wanting to make some money from cookies or provide, like extra support for my family, or be part of the income that's coming into my family to help us achieve like these things that God has put in our path. This is an evangelism opportunity. This is an opportunity for me to go out of my comfort zone and pray for people when I'm delivering cookies to them because I've done it.
Yeah.
Or for one of the people that I worked with the other day was sharing with me a bunch of medical things that they were going through and how he wasn't really walking through that with anybody. And, my heart just broke, because I was like, I can't, I want to be there for them, but I felt so honored to be trusted with this information with this person that I didn't have this really deep relationship with.
Right.
But they felt comfortable enough with me and knew my faith and my background to share things like that with me.
Yes.
And so just the way that God has opened up this bigger opportunity in my business to be able to share Christ with other people simply because I have a business.
Yeah.
And it just created this like easy in for people to get to know me and for people to feel comfortable with me and trust me and have a relationship with me, so that I can then represent him and so that I can then pray for them and be a part of their lives in a more personal way.
Yeah. Man, I love everything you're saying so much. It's like so I feel very similar with my business, and I'm like, insurance, like that's not a cool thing. Like cookies are way cooler than insurance. But the number of people that I get to speak to, and there are days where, I do same thing. Like I get to pray with a client because they're going through something, and even over the phone. I don't see a lot of my people in person, but it's like, I'm really trying to focus now on those little tiny tugs that God gives you, like during the day, to like, hey, pray with this person, or offer to, or ask them if you can pray for them for something. And it's been amazing to see like what God can do through your business when you have made your business around God.
Right.
And not like, I love how you said, like, it's not just about trying to make money for your family. It's not just trying to make this business, but like, how can my business touch the community, serve people, and allow God to like pour out through me to anybody that I meet. And I'm not saying like we're preaching to people or we're like trying to shove Jesus down anybody's throat or anything like that, but it's just being you, like you said. Just by being myself,
right,
I can share God's love that's in my heart. It's God's love that's going to come out of me regardless. And being able to share that with the people, the community, and then eventually potentially increase tithing because the business is growing.
Right.
So it's just, I love everything that you just said, and it's like inspiring. And I hope everybody listening is kind of thinking of that as well. And like how in your business, is God present?
Yeah.
And are you building the foundation of your business on God's principles and God's heart, basically?
Right.
And how can we, I think it's so cool. And the other thing that you said that I love, Brittany, is like Saxonburg is so full of female business owners who are moms.
Yes.
Like it's so fun. And it didn't, like when I started here, it wasn't that way. There were a couple business owners. And then slowly over the last few years, it just seems like
exploded.
Yeah. And it's really fun. So anyway, I digress. What else was I going to ask you? I had another question on my head and I just lost it.
But on all the women that are moms and hear stuff too, I really struggle with in my business, which I know you've talked about this on other podcasts, of feeling like I'm not doing my best in one area or the other, or feeling like I have that like imposter syndrome of, okay, all these people know me and they know who I am, but like I still feel like I'm failing at home right now. Yeah. Like I have 10 loads of laundry that are, you know, sitting in my house, or we didn't do school yesterday, or
I remember those days when I was homeschooling. Like, does like that count as school?
I know, right? Like, well, we did the dishes. That's home economics, exactly. Right? But just in different areas, feeling like if I'm not doing my absolute best, then I'm absolutely failing. But I think that God has given us a really unique perspective, because there are so many like mom, women-owned businesses around here that we can relate to them on that level. Yeah. We can relate to them of like, okay, their kid is crying on their hip in their store right now, and you can tell that they're stressed and they're frustrated, and you can be like, it's okay. Yeah. Like, I've been there. Yeah. It's totally fine to feel overwhelmed. It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to feel like you're struggling. Like, we don't have to hide this from each other. We can have the opportunity to build each other up through this. And then that gives you another way that you can be praying for somebody too, because I mean, you feel it. Like I feel it in my heart when when people's kids are having a breakdown, and I'm not that person that that will like give the awkward stare in the store. Yeah. I'm that person that's like, okay, let's see what I have in my purse to see if I can give this mom bribery for her kids, of like, do I have like a sucker that their kids could have so that this mom can walk through Target in peace? Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. I think that grace is like, it's just so nice. And finding it with more men as well, because it seems like there's been a shift in, maybe it's with the more people working at home, or I do work with a lot of young parents, and it is interesting to get to have that support from another parent, because like you just don't know what to kid. I mean, I'll never forget, I was on the phone with a client. I had it on speakerphone because I was working in my home office, and I was just wrapping up a policy for them. And my daughter walked in and was like, "Mom, I'm going to throw up." Blah. And like you could hear, like vocally hear the throwing up. And I like just said to my client, I am so, luckily she is amazing. And she's actually an EMT. She drives the ambulance in Saxonburg. And she was just like kind of laughing, like, "Hey, I'll call you back later. Or call me back when you're done." But another mom, right? So like, it's just, and I'll see, I will walk down Main Street when I'm feeling it. Like I just need to take a walk. So I'll get out. And as I'm out there, you know, you see other moms, or you see other business owners who are just, their kids are at their business. They're out front playing on the sidewalk like mine often do, or, you know, they're running in and out. And it is just a really neat community.
Yeah, you can definitely see how God has orchestrated the people who are in this community, in their businesses, like at this time. It's like he's naturally created similarities between us all to be able to encourage and support each other. Yeah. So that's really neat.
Now you have me thinking too. I think there's something bigger here. But yeah, so I guess at what point did you, it sounds like you had already had it in your heart. And was cookie baking what you did prior?
So I am a teacher. Like I taught preschool and I was a nanny, so I'm a kid, like I'm a big kid person, and I love my kiddos a lot, but I needed something else to do to keep my emotions and my mental health and my sanity in check, just because my whole life was encompassed by keeping my kids taken care of, trying to make sure like my husband was taken care of other people, being super involved in our church, which are all good things. But it just kind of left me with like, I just need something to calm myself down and to be able to focus on and to be able to be an individual person and not my kids' moms, or not my husband's wife. Yes. Or not that lady that does everything at church.
Yeah. I think we can lose ourselves as when you go into momhood, you're not the same person you were before. Right. That's the truth. But you're still a person. Yeah. And you still like have those things that you need to do to like feel productive, and not not that being a mom, you don't feel productive, but for me, like, I never feel like I get it done. Like, there's always more dishes. There's always more laundry. There's always more homework. There's always a kid, like, outside the bathroom door, like, mama, mama, mama. Yeah. Like, it's never finished. That work is never finished. Where I think with at least your business, right? You bake the cookies, you sell the cookies, you receive the payment for the cookies, and it's like, whew, I got that done.
Right.
And it feels good. And you are, like, truly talented. I mean, if you are not familiar with her cookies, they're beautiful. And, like, she does, I'll post Brittany's, like, Instagram and everything in the comments. But she does, like, those videos of decorating the cookies that are, like, once you start watching it, you can't stop because it's like...
Yeah, I'm that person too. I watch other videos and I'm like, oh, look at that. That was real smooth.
It's so relaxing. And then I'm thinking, like, you should see my sugar cookies that we do. They are not pretty. And, like, just slap it, because I don't have patience for that kind of thing. So anybody who does anything artistic or, like, that takes patience, I'm just totally amazed at.
Yeah, I equate my cookie decorating to, like, the adult coloring books.
Yeah.
Just with cookies and icing. Like, it's
which
just
I can't even finish one of those. Like,
I get impatient with those, but I think it's just that, like, having a goal at the end of things or doing them for a purpose helps me to be really motivated. And that's just another thing with God telling me, hey, like, let's see how you do with this, and let's see how this impacts the community. It gave me a goal of, like, I'm not doing this simply because I want to have, like, more income. Right. I'm doing this because God is working through this.
Yes.
And so even though I do have financial goals that I want to hit for my business, or things that I'm specifically trying to save for or trying to achieve, like, that's my number one goal, is to be a representative of Christ in my community through these relationships that he's given me.
I love that you're saying that. It's something I recently am challenging myself with, because in a sales world, which I'm in, it's very results oriented, right? Like, how much money do you want to make, and how much, so if you want to make this much money, how many policies you need to sell, and how are you going to do that? So I struggle sometimes making financial goals, because my goal is not necessarily to become a millionaire selling insurance. Yeah. My goal is to serve God through my business, employ people so that I can help them change their lives, so that they can not feel like they're stuck in the corporate world like I was, right? They can have a job where they can bring their kids to, and they can be a part of it, and they can still be a great family person, plus have a nice career, and to reach the community, and to, be able to tithe more as my business grows. So it is interesting that you say that, because I struggle sometimes when I go to sales meetings with my franchise, where they're all talking about how much money we're going to make, or, what are your goals? You need to get to this next threshold of revenue, where for me, I want to get to that next level of revenue so I can hire.
Right.
So that I can touch people's lives, not because I want people to make me money. And so it's
like, but I mean, your financial goals are just, they're differently oriented, but people will see that. Like, they'll see that through your business, and through when you do your franchise meetings, their goal is going to look different, because their viewpoint is going to be different. And so even though I do have financial goals for my business, they're goals that, like, I've prayed over, and that I've considered, like, and I'm willing to change depending on whatever God wants it to be.
Right.
But at the same time, like, God calls us to be good stewards of what he's given us. And that includes finances and money. And if we don't have goals, and we're just, like, flying blind of, let's just make let's make this much money, or, if you end up having a surplus of money, what you want, like, being able to say, God, what do you want me to do with this? Like, how do you want me to bless somebody else with this? Or how can I invest back in my business so that you can do bigger things with it?
Right.
And so financially, like, God has shown up in so many ways in our family, and in my business stuff. Like, it's really easy for me to see that perspective of it. Just because even though like I sell cookies, so I'm not quite as sales oriented as you in the aspect of you like have so many things that you need to meet, but at the same time,
well, it's still sales.
Yeah,
it's still,
like,
yeah. I mean, every business. I even look at the church, sometimes, and
right, like they have goals.
What's
that
the
need
goal?
To be met.
Like how many new members are we looking to get next year, and how are we going to grow the tithe so that we can do more stuff within the church to grow and reach more people, and
I think the big key point is just making sure that in whatever you're doing that you've prayed over that and that you feel God leading you in those directions of those goals. Because where it gets dangerous is when you leave God out of that equation, right? And you start going for these other goals of like, well, I just want to be able to do this, and I just want to be able to have this, and I just want my family to have this, so God will just get me there. And God is gracious to bless us that way with a lot of things, but at the same time, like when we lose sight of what he wants and where he's leading us, we get lost in the goals of finances rather than the goal of where God may be leading us. And then, I mean, it even impacts us in a way of like, it can change our demeanor and the way that we handle things and the way that we do our business, because we get so concerned about trying to make sure that we're hitting this goal because it's our goal and because we want to get there, as opposed to this is the goal that God has given me. Yes. And I want to walk in his will to get there, to see what he's going to do. Yeah. Yeah. And I think like that's tricky, right? For sure.
And so that's where I came from, a corporate world where goals are everything. Right.
Yeah.
Results are everything. If people aren't achieving results, you need to like get them in check quickly or get them out. Like it was not, I did not feel like I was leading like Jesus there, which was a big part of my struggle with being there, because I was actually having like this internal battle every day of like, this is not the way I want to lead a business, and this isn't the way I want to do things. So in my own business, it's much easier in the sense that like I set my own goals, and I can work with God. And I'm not going to get sent to HR if I say Jesus at work. Like, it's just not going to happen, because I'm not sending myself to HR. Yeah. But it is fun once you get this, because once you realize that God is in control, like you can set whatever goals you want, but God's going to determine the outcome. Right. And if he's in the middle of it, it's probably going to turn out way better than you can even imagine. And he's going to continue, when he's in the center of that, and you're praying on it. And now you see that person who can help you, or you meet that friend who owns a business that wants to put your cookies in it. Yep. Or you meet a friend who loves God too, and like we can encourage each other. Or you come across, like, it just, once you open your heart and your whatever you're doing, your business, your corporate job, your stay-at-home mom, whatever that is, once you open your heart to like, all right, God, you're in control of this, because like I can't do it on my own. Right. And I hear a lot of podcasts. I listen to a lot of self-help podcasts where they try to tell people how to do it on their own.
Oh yeah, no, and I'm not about that.
Yeah, it's for me, it's like, I could never find in myself how to change myself, or I could never go out and seek and try. I mean, I could meet 1,000 people, and then maybe 100 of them are good, and I can just do all by numbers, or I can walk by faith, right? And like, if I do meet somebody that doesn't want to work with me, I have to be okay with that, knowing that there's a reason God doesn't want us to work together. Maybe they would like steal your cookie, like steal your money, or you know what I mean? Like maybe they're just bad, cruddy people. Right. But the faster we can let go of that one that God didn't put in our path, he's going to put 10 more in front of us that like are going to be huge blessings in one way or the other, or we're going to be blessings too. Right. So I love that. I think that's like such a, and your story is showing all of that, like your story from saying no to God, right? Yes. No, man, you got the wrong girl, which I've done that many times, to him being like, no, Brittany, you are the right girl. I have a plan for you. And then you leaning into that, and then like the magic that's just happened in less than a year, like, and what you're going to be, like, you're just I'm so glad that you're here. Oh, yeah. And such
I'm excited. I know that I really, like, a lot of my life, I really struggled with worthiness and feeling like I'm not good enough.
Yep.
And just having that repeat, like, over and over again. And so God really worked through, for some reason, he really likes to work through my pregnancies when I'm pregnant with my babies.
Okay.
And
I think it's
time.
Because kind of
Yeah.
you don't go as hard when you're pregnant.
Because I have to rest.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't do pregnant very well.
Yeah, that's fair.
But two, my pregnancies are full of a lot of fear just because of previous things that have happened with, I've lost 3 babies.
Okay.
And so with previous things that have happened, like, they're just so full of fear. And so God really takes that time to speak over my heart. So when I was pregnant with my daughter, he really worked on control with me. And he knew I would need it because she's kind of sassy, like her mom. And
that's fair.
And
girls
so
are
he worked with that. And then with my last little boy, he worked on fear. And I was like, oh, well, I can see that even just through the years how God was stripping away these pieces of me that I needed to let go of.
Yeah.
So that I could step into what I'm doing right now. Because the Brittany that people know right now was not me when I had my, when I was in Texas. Like, I would say that they would say, like, wow, you've really changed. Like, you're really different. And it's not that I'm so different that I'm like this totally different person. It's that I'm not living in fear of all these things that can happen or feeling like I have to have everything in control.
Yeah. Oh man. I think we could do a whole podcast on fear.
Oh yeah.
And we probably should, because there's a lot of it out there right now, but I think that's so common, especially like, I know for myself, I lost a baby about a year and a half ago, and I am terrified to get pregnant. I mean, we're like, nope, we're not going to do that anymore. Cause I don't think I can handle going through it again. So moms who have been through it and come out on the other side and have babies, like, I have this huge amount of like admiration and respect for, because I've been on the end of that where I'm like, no, I don't think I can handle that again. Yeah. So like, I
it's hard. I mean, it's definitely a lesson of faith and trust.
Yeah.
And just being completely willing to be like, okay, God, I don't know what you're going to do, but I have to trust you. Like, I just have to.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel that God, like, keeps coming back to me with this business stuff and with this community. It's just like, okay, God, I don't know what you're going to do, and I don't know how you're going to do it, but I'm going to trust that, like, you just keep showing up in big ways. So I have no reason not to trust you. Like, you've proven yourself over and over again. Yeah. And you keep doing it. Like, you keep providing opportunities for me personally, like with my business, that then gives me all these cool things to connect with people at the same time. And so I just never thought that would happen. Yeah. And then God's like, oh yeah, I can do whatever I want. You just watch. And
watch what I do. Yes, I love that. And you can tell me no, but guess what? I get my way because I'm God. I'm like, this is what I made you for. You might not realize it, but I made you for that. So that's awesome. And I know you had a Bible verse to share, right? Yeah. I would love to hear that. And then we'll probably have to wrap up.
You're fine. I shared with Sam that there was one Bible verse that I really wanted to signify my business, because I want it to be first and foremost that I'm representing Christ. That's my number one goal, is that no matter what I'm doing, no matter how many cookies I'm making, no matter where you see me, that you know that I love Jesus, and that if you need me to pray with you, that I will walk away from what I'm doing and I will do that with you. If you need encouragement, like, I will encourage you and I will speak God's truth over you. And so Colossians 3 verse 17 says, "In whatever you do in word or deed, do everything in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him." And that's really the summation of why I'm even doing this. Because if God didn't have this plan for me to be a part of my community and have these relationships with people, I don't know that I would keep doing it, because it means staying up really late at night and losing a lot of sleep for me, because I do it after my kids go to bed, and it means spending weekends away from my kids sometimes when I have events or I'm teaching classes. Yeah. But I know that God has equipped my family and has given me the trust of my husband and the support of all these amazing people around me. And so I know that whatever I'm doing he's got to be in it, and he's got to be first, and I've got to be representing him, because if I'm not doing those things, and if I'm not impacting other people simply by the way that I represent my love for Jesus, then I really need to stop and reevaluate why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Man, I love you. I think that is so amazing, and I'm so grateful that you came and joined me today for the podcast. And everything you said is just like so on point, and what I strive to do, and I'm just really excited that you're in my life, and I'm excited that you were on this podcast and that you were willing
Thank you
to share your story with our listeners, because it's not always comfortable to share like all the, but it's also like a little bit therapeutic, I think.
Oh, for sure.
So I'm going to wrap it up, you guys. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with your friends, comment, give us a review. We would love that. It helps get it out there and help us touch more people. So I will end with Joshua 1:9. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go.